On 23rd of July 2024, Meta has released its latest open source LLM, the Llama 3.1. It contains three models, the 8 billion, 70 billion, and the massive 405 billion. It could be the most powerful and intelligent model that's free for everyone to use. If you look at the comparison, it is very comparable to other closed models like GPT-4 and the Cloud 3.5 Sonnet. Human eval, which is one of the most important evaluation metric, also shows Llama 3.145B is very impressive compared to GPT-4, GPT-4o, and Cloud 3.5 Sonnet. Now, if this is true, the performance as they claimed, this could be a pivotal moment for open source LLM if we're looking back in the history, say in 5 years' time. And the reason I say that is, if you check out this chatbot arena leaderboard, and we come to this category coding. Now, scan through the top 10, 20, you can see it's dominated by all these paid models. The Cloud, GPT-4, the Gemini, like none of the open source models has made to it. If we scroll down, we can see, okay, here is open source, oh, that's not even open source model. Llama 3 is open source model now down to 18. That's 70B. So we really hope this new 4.5B model and also 3.18B will bring the rank up in terms of the code assistant, which is what we're going to test today. In today's video, we will continue our search for the best coding assistant LLM. In our previous videos, we have already compared the paid models. Today, we're going to look into these free models. The model I have selected, you can see the first one is actually GPT-4o Mini, which is not free. It's a drop-down replacement for the GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is OpenAI's cheapest model. And this GPT-4o Mini is the latest release. I want to include it just to, first, we haven't compared it and it's the latest release. And second, I want to use it as a kind of benchmark to compare with the rest of our models. Now, as you can see, the rest of models, my pick is mostly small models. The latest release from Llama 3.18 billion, the Codegemma from Google, 7 billion, Codestral from the Mistral, and this is 7 billion model. And then the last, we have Microsoft 5.3, which is 14 billion. It's the actually largest model for 5.3. And also, I want to include the latest 4.5 billion if we can have access to it. We will take the same approach when we benchmark our paid models. So there will be two tests. The test one is a single long prompt. We will tell the bot to build a voice-enabled chatbot, and then whatever spins out from the output, that's it. We're going to test that code, see whether it works. Test 2 will be a multi-stage prompt. The goal is to build a local RAG solution, but we will divide that to 3 stages. And we will build the app slowly from MVP and scaling them out. The stage 1 is to build a text-based chatbot, so just straight interaction with the LLM with no UI. Then we ask to add a UI with Streamlit on stage 2. Stage 3 will turn the app into a RAG, which will index PDF file that we can upload using LangChain. For the test 2 multi-stage prompt, for each stage, we will give it 3 opportunities to debug to fix the code, just like we did with the paid models. Before we start our testing, let's quickly talk about how we access these models. So first of all, GPT-4o Mini, obviously we just go through the chatgpt.com and make sure we have selected the 4o Mini. With the Codestral, the website says if you want to access the Codestral Mamba, it is available on their own website with this model, Codestral Mamba. But when I come to this website, it doesn't really give you the exact model name. So I guess the closest one we can get is by selecting Codestral here, and this will be our model. Then the other model is Meta AI. Again, we want to test 4 or 5 from the cloud. So on their website, it says try 4 or 5B on Meta AI. So I guess by logging into Meta AI, It doesn't give you again the option like tell you what model it is. This is what we're gonna use. We just have to trust this is a 405 model, 405B model. And lastly, we're gonna use the Open Web UI with our old Llama to access all the free models. So we're gonna use Codegemma, we're gonna use the Llama 3.18 billion, and we're gonna do the 5.3. Okay. So before we start, I'm gonna make sure we have all the latest models. So click on this models, update all models, and we'll come back for the testings. Based on the experience we had when testing those closed models, we're gonna change our single prompt a little bit by providing more data, more reference docs. So this is the prompt. Please write a single Python script to build a voice-enabled chatbot. You will be using open source Whisper library for the STT speech-to-text, 11 labs for the text-to-speech, and large language model will be GPT-4o. The ID is VS Code on Mac, and all API keys will be provided via the .env file. Here are all the information you will need. So we're gonna copy paste 3 important information that we'll need. First is our OpenAI Whisper library, how to use it. Just copy the Whisper library, paste here. Then the 11 labs, we're gonna select the streaming and select Python. I'm gonna copy it, paste here. Lastly, the GPT-4o, just gonna copy everything and just chuck it into our chat. Just throw everything in the chat. Have large window, context window. Okay, so this is our GPT-4 mini, and that's our full prompt. Let's just do a copy paste so we can use it for the next model, and let's go. Waiting for the response. Sure, here is a complete Python script to build a voice-enabled chatbot using Whisper for speech, Whisper for STT, 11 labs for TTS, and GPT-4o for natural language understanding. The script will be run from VS Code. Okay, so tell you the library to install. 11 key, we already have the keys here. We just need to, looks like it used a variable here, so we just need to add our voice ID into our V file to match the script, and just copy this to our VS Code and run it. The code has been fully output. Let's just copy it, go to our VS Code. We've already created a file, copy paste, and then let's run this. Now let's quick glance this code, and I can see it looks pretty simple. It referenced couple of things from our API key, which added is the voice ID. So now it's in the env file, which you can see here. The voice ID is coming back from the environment profile. However, in the actual function, you see there is a model ID. It's using different model, that's fine. But there's no reference to the actual voice ID. And if you remember on our previous video, for example, this one we have used with also 11 labs. Right above the model ID, you also reference the voice ID. So in this new script that GPT-4 mini just produced, it didn't actually reference to the voice ID. So it might not work. If it worked, it might just use default voice. I don't know. So let's just try this. First single prompt test for our GPT-4. See what sort of error we'll get again. Running. So it looks like it's already ran, and you can see it says transcribing audio while I was still talking during the recording. So it looks like this script runs, but didn't give us any control on how user gonna engage, activate. So as soon as I run the script, it started recording, and of course the recording didn't get transcribed properly. This GPT-4o mini has failed this first test, but that's okay. I think it done most of it. We're opening the file, so I think we're not too far off. Let's move on to the next model. Next one is the latest Meta's Llama 3.1 with 8 billion model, the small model. So we just copy, paste the exact same single long prompt with all the reference material it might need. And let's see what's the response. Now this is running locally on my machine. Of course, it might be slower. Let's see, here is a single Python script to utilize open source Whisper library for STT, 11 labs for TTS, and LLM will be GPT-4o. Didn't talk much, looks good. The script is out. That's something I haven't seen this before. Import star, what does that mean? Import everything? Okay, so this is the full script. Then you see the reference for the voice ID and the model ID. Also you have, okay, it's asking you to provide that in your environment variable, which is okay. And then it tells you the library you need to install. This is the main chat functions. That's the audio file you wanna produce. And this is how you reference it. Okay, let's copy this and see how it runs. Paste our code here, and then let's run it. What sort of error we will get this time? Oh, the whisper. We need to import that. So it looks like the library is not imported correctly. That's the bit I didn't understand, like why it's like that. So let's just import whisper directly and see whether this, oh, that has disappeared. Okay, that's good. Okay, shall we give pass? We'll give pass and then let's just save this and run it again. So let's give it one more chance. And here we go. What's the error? So you can see some errors with our speech to text, and also there's some playback errors with the library. No such file directory. We play back. However, when we run the app, I didn't see the activation for recording, like for the user input. So we don't know what this script actually has the core function or fixed up. But it's a fail. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is Llama's latest 405 billion model. And this is the most discussed model on the internet right now because it's supposed to be a very good model, almost as good as Cloud 3.5 or GPT-4o. It's making huge wave on the internet. So let's see how it performs. Also, the style is very similar to our 8 billion model, very simple. It gives us, okay, this already look better. Model IDs, headers, okay. And then you have the GPT for the LLM chat, and you have the audio file. Very simple, less wordy. See, the explanation is also very simple. You will need to replace audio 3 file with your own audio file and adjust the voice ID parameter in the text to speech. Now I understand this bit. You will need to replace the voice ID parameter, which is right here. We're gonna actually reference our ID there, not from the environment variable. But this bit, you need to replace the audio file with your own. I don't quite understand this part because the audio file should be produced as the output of our text-to-speech by 11 Lab API. So let's just copy the code and then run it, see how it goes. So we're gonna change this default to the actual voice ID. I will not worry about this audio MP3 file. It sounds complicated to me. If I'm asking it to successfully spit out an app using one single prompt, I shouldn't be doing this, right? So let's just see how far we can push this. Let's run it, save and run. Okay, so we got some errors too. So first of all, it is definitely better than the 8 billion model. As you can see here, the user warning, if you watch my other video and you know how the whisper library initialized, you know it's actually being called. So this is good, didn't work. And also we didn't see the actual activation of the user input. And then you have the same kind of the audio file. No such file library, this is the same. Okay, let's move on. Next up is Google's open source model Llama. And we have selected Codegemma, which is based on, I believe, Gemma 1.5 and is fine-tuned for coding. So let's copy and power single long prompt. As you can see, we're using the open web UI with Llama to run this. Let's see whether it will give us a good response. It's taking some time. Okay, it's not bad. Let's have a look at the code. Straight away, you notice there's very little libraries that's being imported. So you know it's not gonna work. For example, 11 not imported. You gotta whisper and open it, that's good. Now let's look at the structure of the code. You got the initialization of the base model for whisper speech to text. These all looking pretty, well, I don't know whether it works, but it looks good. This is load GPT-4o API keys. Then you got to transcribe functions. Get the response from LLM, which got the model correctly. And this response looks correct as well. Then you have the API bit. You have the model ID. I think that is a wrong model ID. This model doesn't exist. And then voice ID, it didn't talk about voice ID. Okay, most likely it wouldn't work, but let's just try it. Into our script, we'll copy paste. Oh, you had this three. Okay, we should get rid of that and run it. Here we go. So this is our test one single long prompt. Oh, please record your questions. So it didn't activate audio, but actually it's asking me to do some typing. Hello. Here we go. It didn't have much hope, but it actually looked better than I expected. You see, it tried to initialize the Whisper model. This is where you get the CPU, GPU error, which is good. Then you just get a URL error that the transcribe function is actually not working. Then the audio file won't be played, blah, blah, blah. Very similar. Next one is our model. Now, it may or may not be the latest member. We don't know. We are just following what the website says. So first up, it's very fast. You can see. Here's the basic outline of how you can structure a Python script to build a voice-enabled chatbot using open source Whisper library, 11 labs, and GPT-4o. Okay, looks very constructive. Now you see this, load the actual environment variable. That's very good. Because obviously that's the first thing we need to do, right? Load the environment variable and load the models. Now, if I look back, actually, not many models did that. This Llama 3.145, it didn't load the environment variable. The 8 billion model, it did. And GPT-4o, of course, that did. Codegemma also didn't load the environment variable. Then you have the transcribe functions, and then the GPT-4 for the clients. This is the chat completion. It's using the mini, that's fine, even though we didn't say using mini. Where did that get from? Audio response, then this 11 lab API. Okay, so I have to say this script looks very structural. Now it says replace your voice ID. So we're gonna replace the voice ID here. Let's do that. Let's paste in the code. Now we will change this voice ID to the actual ID. Let's save it and run it. Okay, so we got some error. Let's look through the errors. It tried to initialize the model of for the Whisper, and then it had some problem with the audio file. Looks like transcribe didn't work, and also had the same file. I think this file is not there, that's why it couldn't open. So same sort of error. The last model for our single long prompt test is Microsoft 5.3, and this is a 14 billion model. So it's a larger model in the small sort of model family. It's towards the larger side. It's medium models, almost double the parameters compared to these 7B, 8B models. Let's see how it performs. So it started with a very clear explanation. To build such applications, you need to integrate APIs in the Python. This is a high level. Set up the environment. You're gonna speech recognition using Whisper in Python, transcribe audio files into text, blah, blah, blah. And then you're gonna have the file to be transcribing. Import a library. Okay, you got that environment variable correctly, but there's other libraries missing. For example, the OpenAI libraries for the LLM and 11 labs libraries. Okay, so API key equal to that. That's not very ideal. We have to make a change to that. And this model is supposed to be base in here. It's missing the base. So, oh, that's very short. So this is the transcribing functions missed. It only did the transcribing. So, okay, because it says it's a high level, I will give you a high level outlines. Now you have the text to speech. Use 11 labs to the text to speech response. That doesn't look correct. Conversational AI with GPT-4, okay, that's all right. Even though I said GPT-4 and it says GPT-3 client, that is a absolute hallucination. What is that even? Okay, so this is the chat functions, and then okay, that's it. So it's definitely gonna fail. I'm not even put them together to a script. You know what? Let's do it so I can have a copy of it. This is like giving 5.3 a second opportunity. Please print out the full script. Make sure you checked provided documentations, imported all the required libraries. And let's see copy paste this full script into our VS Code file. So this is the full script. Even though we have provided all the reference documents, it still didn't get, the file 3 didn't get the actual correct information. Like, what is GPT-3 client? What is TTS client? And it's asked to replace with the actual library name, replace the actual library name, replace the actual method. But these are the reason why we provide all those docs. So it looks like this is not gonna work for sure. You have to replace so many things. And these response, it's not, what it is, it's not a check completion endpoint either. And then you got web file, interesting, but implement a way to play the audio file. That's fine because it's not gonna actually be played. All these apps does is produce the output.mp3. We didn't specify how it's gonna be played out. I should have done that, but so far none of the has made that far. So still, we're just gonna copy paste the code, and with all these errors, 11 Labs, OpenAI AMO. What does that mean? That's a funky name, AMO. Correct typo from AMK2. Very interesting, file 3. We're gonna save it, but we're not gonna run it. So that's it. That's the end of our test 1. None of the models, including GPT-4 or Mini, which is not open source one, none of them have made it to produce a working app. But you can see some app has done better, some has done worse. For example, at least you need to get all the library that required correctly. You need to import them. That's very basic. You're gonna load your environmental variable. Some of the output didn't even do that. I felt I made this, I don't know, did I make a single prompt harder than the last paid model tests or easier? It's a long prompt, but with all the required material. But the actual product we want to build, which is a voice-enabled chatbot, doesn't sound like it's a complex product, but actually building it might be too complex for these open source models, because even the closed source models, they struggle. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the part 2 when we do the test number 2 for our multi-stage prompts test.